Hi, I'm Lindsay, and I'm a homeschooling mom of 5, and I'm here today to talk about the Well-Educated Heart versus Ambleside Online as curriculum choices in our home. So let me start off by saying that I am a homeschool mom of 5 kids. Right now I have a 14-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1.5-year-old. Obviously not all of those children are doing school. My 3 oldest kids are doing school right now. And my oldest child is in high school. She this is her first year doing homeschool. She was public schooled all of her life until last fall. So she's about to finish her first homeschool year ever. And then my younger kids have never been to public school. So we've been homeschooling since 2019. We did like a preschool homeschool in 2019. So I have tried like all the things. I've tried all the different things. I love to read about different homeschooling philosophies, different educational philosophies. Well, I haven't tried all the things, but I've tried a lot of things. But specifically right now, I'm here to talk about Ambleside Online and the Well-Educated Heart. If you don't know what Ambleside Online is a literature-based Charlotte Mason curriculum. They offer a schedule and a book list, support for children and mothers, extra book lists, various different resources. They have an advisory of women that helped facilitate and set up the selections for the book list. On their website, it says Ambleside Online is a free homeschool curriculum that uses Charlotte Mason's classically based principles to prepare children for a life of rich relationships with everything around them, God, humanity, and the natural world. And then I will read the Well-Educated Heart from their website. They are also a literature-based. It's not really a curriculum. I mean, it is. It's the same sort of a thing. It offers a schedule or I'll just read what it says on their website. The Well-Educated Heart is a pattern of learning focused on educating the heart. We believe, as Aristotle taught, that educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. We offer the Libraries of Hope as a resource to help facilitate educating hearts. Okay, first I'm going to talk about some similarities between the two. I'll start off by saying that I have used the Well-Educated Heart the longest of the two, as you probably have watched my other videos. All of my kids, I feel like my oldest child, my 14-year-old, she hasn't really used it a lot, but we're implementing it for high school, I believe in the fall, and I'll talk about that at the end. But my 2 middle children, they have used it for years now. Ambleside Online, our first experience with it was last fall because I needed some structure for my 14-year-old because it was her first time homeschooling. So I could not just say, pick a book and read, or, read about what you're interested in, because she still had some work to do trying to understand what it would be like to be homeschooled. So we needed a little bit more structure for that. And so I used it for my other kids as well because I liked the schedule, but we'll talk about that in a second. The similarities between the two are they're both literature based. I would say they're both Charlotte Mason. Charlotte Mason would definitely approve of the selections that the Well-Educated Heart uses. And the Well-Educated Heart references a lot of who would have been Charlotte Mason's inspiration, or I don't know if they were directly her teachers. I need to find out more about that. But Pestalozzi and Froebel, like early childhood educators, they came before her. So they're both, like, I'm going to say for the purposes of this video, they're both very Charlotte Mason. If you've used either of them, I'd be interested to hear if you would consider that a valid assumption. Not an assumption because I know, but a valid assessment, because I know that the Well-Educated Heart does not like to refer to themselves as Charlotte Mason, but the book selections are Charlotte Mason approved, if you will. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the reason that I got to these two was that I was interested in both Charlotte Mason style homeschooling and classical education homeschooling. If you are at all in the Ambleside Online Facebook group or in their forum, you will know that Karen Glass is one of their advisory board members, and she has written the book Know and Tell, which is discussing how Charlotte Mason is viewed in classical education now and how she related to classical education in her time. So knowing that, and I've read it, and I've been in the Ambleside group, I made a list because otherwise I'll talk about anything, but the pros for me for Ambleside were that it was more leaning classical, towards classical education, while also still being Charlotte Mason. I appreciated that. It had scheduling. It had trackable progression throughout the levels. So Ambleside has, I think it's like year 0, which is like for preschoolers, all the way up until year 12. And then they have resources for mothers, which is just, really it's just Charlotte Mason's writings. And they talk about it in the group and on the forum. And then their advisory board members, like Cindy Rollins is one, Karen Glass, Ann White, I can't name them all, but there's several, and they've all written different books about this philosophy, and they've also written one all together called 6 Voices, I believe. It's on their website, amblesideonline.com. So it was more classical leaning. They had a schedule. Here's the schedule, a picture of the schedule. This is for year 6, in case anyone was wondering what this is for. They had trackable progression. They have trackable progression throughout the levels. And by that, I mean that you can see what your child is learning. You can see how it builds on each other. You can see, like, for example, in year 1, my year 1 child was reading about Great Britain, the history of Great Britain, and it talked about Hengist and Horsa and Vortigern. And then next year, my 15-year-old would have been learning about those same people from history in a different piece of literature. Actually, Winston Churchill's The Birth of Britain. So it circles back around. It has a longer history cycle, which I'll talk about in a second. But I liked that you could see that, I like that you could see that in progression of your kids, where your levels would be, like, what is this going to look like in 10 years or whatever. Like, if your kid's in level 1, what will they be learning about in between now and when they graduate, basically. I appreciate that there's support in the Facebook group. I strongly dislike the app. The app is extremely unfortunate to use. I don't know if it's just me, but it has a lot of ads. But they do have support in the group on Facebook and in the app, which is Tapatalk. And then Cindy Rollins has a podcast called The New Mason Jar with Cindy Rollins, and it's her podcast, but it is mostly about Ambleside. So I appreciate that there are all those options. I felt that it was challenging and rigorous at the appropriate grade level. We tend to lean toward unschooling style just naturally as our family. And I'm also not like a planner. Like, I'm not type A at all. Unfortunately for myself. So I had to learn how to schedule. I had to learn, like, how to meal plan, how to plan things. Like, I've had to learn that as a mom. So I appreciate all these different things that they have going for them. The schedule, the trackable progression, the support. It was challenging and rigorous, And so that helps me have an easier time because I don't have to do those things myself. The things that I didn't like were that it felt very overwhelming, especially if you didn't start out in Ambleside or you didn't start out. I feel like if you were doing classical education and you moved to Ambleside, you would be fine, just because that's more rigorous. But I feel like if you come from anything else, like if you're using the good and the beautiful or Gather Round, or I don't know, what are some other ones? I guess Memoria Press and Classical Academic Press would be the classical, any classical education style. I feel like if you moved from that to Ambleside, you would have a pretty easy time moving over. But if you come from any other type, you're going to struggle a little bit at the beginning just because the selections are very specific and intentional, which is great, but it takes some getting used to some of the verbiage. By that, I mean that, for example, I placed my freshman in year 6 of Ambleside. I felt that that was an appropriate level for her ability coming out of public school, and she did a really great job with it. I would say she was both challenged and it was doable for her at the same time. And looking forward to year 7 in the Ambleside Online Facebook group, they talk a lot about how year 6 to year 7, it's a change in forms. So there's going to be a little bit more challenging material. But I tried to listen to and read The Birth of Britain, and it took me a long time to get into it. So I don't know. I don't know. So anyways, it's all a lot. It's a lot at once, especially if you're coming from a less literary curriculum. It's a lot to manage. I would say, like, if your kid's 3rd grade and up, you're going to have an adjustment period. Year 7 definitely looks very stressful to me, and all the upper years. I know some of the upper years, it's a salad bar type situation, but it's a lot. It's a lot of things. I have the books over there, and it's almost a whole entire row of an IKEA bookshelf, which I love a challenge. But anyways, I'm going to keep going. I didn't like that there was almost no science. And there is a science component. It's nature study based, but there weren't, I'm not an experiment person, but like, I feel like there's only so much science you can read about that you have to like do stuff. And so in year 7, they use the first studies of plant life, and it's suggested to use the Sabbath Mood botany workbook or guide or whatever. And so I don't know, I just feel like if you're in year 7, you need to be like doing more things, especially if you're a 7th grader. For my child, she needs to have high school level science. So that's something that I'll talk about maybe in another video. But anyways, there was no support for the sciences. I don't know. I felt like there was nothing for the sciences. Another complaint about the sciences is it uses young earth creationism, which is a huge no for my family. You might be fine with that. I just can't. I feel some type of way that they so confidently went ahead right with that, started out with that in year 6. I haven't seen it in the lower years. I've only looked at year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4, and then year 6 and 7. Year 6 had a book called, I can't, if you could believe it, it's true or something. I can't remember. I'll have to look for it, but it just, the first page was like the earth is only 6,000 years old. So that's a big no for me, but I just pulled those out and put something else in there, which was fine. Dislike that the group is super diehard Charlotte Mason. I love me a good Charlotte Mason. I appreciate it. I love it. That's the curriculum that I identify with. My kids enjoy that type of style, but Charlotte Mason was not a mom. And so I have a small concern about that. That's a whole nother video. But anyways, those are my opinions. Moving on. I decided to use Ambleside last year and next year, or this year and next year, and then I changed my mind. And And then I changed my mind again. So I'm going to move on. So let's go to the well-educated heart. Again, the well-educated heart is a pattern of learning focused on educating the heart. We believe, as Aristotle taught, that educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And they offer the Libraries of Hope as a resource to help facilitate educating hearts. I will say before I get started here that Ambleside uses a lot of the Henty books. I don't even have them. I'm just sorry. It's H.E. Marshall. This Country of Ours and Our Island Story. They use those as a history spine and for the younger years. And then the Well-Educated Heart includes some of these. In fact, in one of their series, the entirety of Our Island Story is in one of the volumes. So you can see behind me, I have the books. The Well-Educated Heart has their store part is called the Libraries of Hope. And inside of those books, first of all, they're all available for free through the Internet Archive. And they are all out of print or out of copyright books that fit into the topics. And they use a rotation schedule, which is different from most curriculums. In fact, I've never really seen it before, except for maybe like if you did a repetitive unit study. Most curriculums, I feel like, use like, I think it's a 4-year cycle for history. So like I said earlier, Ambleside had like early explorers, the history of Great Britain as year 1, and then it comes back in year 7, so that's 6 years. But I don't like that. I feel like it should be revisited more often so that it can be more relatable at different stages. So I enjoy that the Well-Educated Heart has the rotation, and in the rotation it starts in September and it ends in August. So it could be a year-round situation, and there are different topics for each month. For example, in the first month, it is space or stars, Scandinavia, Asia, the South Seas. I just don't have any of my papers. I come prepared. And explorers and the 1500s. So every September, you're going to revisit those topics. And I appreciate that. I like that. And for example, this month is month 9, and it is Latin America and the Civil War and the human body. Every time in May, you're going to go back to those same topics. I like that. The positives for the Well-Educated Heart for me are that it's literature based. Like I said, the Libraries of Hope books behind me, these are all compilations of various, most of them I feel like are complete books, but some of them are just selections from different books. For example, there's a history book for younger ages that is Arthur Mee's 1000 Heroes. Please don't catch anything on fire. Arthur Mee's 1000 Heroes, and it is all different chapters on each person. Some of them are selections from different books. Like I said, one of them has the entirety of Our Island Story in it. So I really like that, and I feel as though the books that were selected to go into each one were very thoughtfully curated. It's not just a book that has an older book inside of it. It's not just one that fit the topic. It's one that's applicable, it fits the topic, it's relevant, and it's well written. And it's a living book. So I like all that. I like that there's multiple opportunities to visit each time period in history. For example, you might talk about the Civil War. You're going to talk about the Civil War this year. You're going to talk about the Civil War next year. And as your child grows in age and maturity, they're going to get more out of talking about that same topic each time. I like that there are a middle ground, nature study and science topics. There's a whole nature section, a series. and it varies in complexity and reading level and age group. So you could use it for little kids, you could use it for high schoolers, and then just add to it. I like that that is adjustable, if you will. It's just automatically adjustable because it relates to so many ages. I love that it offers different, not just age levels, but reading abilities, comprehension abilities within each series, and then within the entire library of the Well-Educated Heart books. I think on their website they have like, what level would this be for? Is this for little kids? Is this for middle kids? Is this for upper kids or adults? So I really appreciate that. I love the rotation style. I love the mother support and education that they offer. I actually am a part of a local it's called the Mothers of Influence. You can join after you read. There's like a selection to read. I think it's the Catch the Vision course on the website. And after you do that, you can see the groups and you can potentially join a group. And those are amazing. I might do a whole other thing about the mothers groups because that's how I got here. Please stop catching things on fire.
I was making a pencil for Valkyrie.
Okay, well that does not require catching things on fire. Anyways, okay, the selections, okay, this is important. The selections in these series of the Well-Educated Heart Libraries of Hope selections are religiously neutral, okay? We are Catholic. The woman who compiled the Libraries of Hope, Marlene Peterson, she is LDS. When I first began this journey, I was slightly concerned that there had been, I feel like if anyone's going to create something, they want it to be of their belief, they want it to be, people choose like a Christian curriculum or, there's different things. So I feel like it's inherent to want to know that what you're reading is going to be something that you not only can agree with, but something that you feel comfortable introducing to your children. Would I totally throw it out if it was LDS teachings? I would probably just reconsider if I saw it. I have looked at a lot of the authors. I personally have read a lot of these books, not all of them, a lot of them. And I have yet to find that there are Mormon authors. I've yet to find that there's overtly LDS leaning passages. It is religiously neutral in these selections of the Well-Educated Heart store, okay? Important to know because in a second I'm going to talk about something else. I did not talk about that for Ambleside. I did touch on it with the young earth creationism part. I felt as though their selections definitely lean Protestant. Could I venture to say assertively Protestant? Because, I can always say, if it says, oh, this guy was a horrible guy, you add context and you keep reading, because when you learn about history, you understand more about what's happening. And so it doesn't negate the fact that I won't use it for that reason, but it's a note of something to consider if you're considering these two. Okay. Let me get a drink of water. Okay. The negatives that I found with the Well-Educated Heart are my own personal concern of what appears to be a lack of rigor and challenging passages for the child. A slight lack of, definitely a lack of classical education as a rule. I feel like it's not a classical curriculum. Ambleside could definitely be justified as classical style and Charlotte Mason. This definitely is not classical. So that was a drawback for me. The lack of structure, and the structure is sort of frowned upon in the group, except in the virtual classes, which I'll talk about in just a second. If you're using just the books the Libraries of Hope selections and the rotation, that itself is considered the structure. There's no assigned books, there's no assigned chapters, there's no assigned levels for the kids. It is basically pick something and learn about it, and then you don't even, there's not even any, on the website she talks about how she would recommend doing it, and it is pick something, read about it, and make a notebooking page if it made an impression on you. And so that's what I mean by lack of structure. It's not scheduled. It's more of a free form. Do what you want. Learn about something that you want. Anyways, they definitely do not like to be compared to Charlotte Mason, which is not really like a negative. It's just a difference of philosophy. I actually appreciate that, because I feel as though when you have a Charlotte Mason curriculum, like Ambleside or simply Charlotte Mason, or I forget what some of the other ones are, but I feel like they get really aggressive about it. Like, you have to do what Charlotte Mason said, and like, I don't like to be told what to do, so it's a no for me. It's a red flag. But anyways, it's fine. Marlene Peterson refers to Pestalozzi and Froebel for early educators and what their methods would be. But also, so I guess none of these are negatives. I think I have one negative. This is not actually a negative. She talks about Pestalozzi and Froebel, how they empowered mothers to educate their children. And the first, like, how did the first kindergarten come about, and all these things. And then it talks about the Delphian reading course, which I have somewhere, this one over here, it's hidden, but to educate mothers, to educate their children. And so I feel like the restrictions of an exclusive Charlotte Mason curriculum and or support group excludes, they say they don't exclude mothers, but I just personally feel like it's less support. I need more, and perhaps there's things that I haven't read or things that I disliked that I read about the support or surrounding the support for mothers, but the Well-Educated Heart just does it better. There's an entire, I'll show over here. This right here is the Mother's Library, which I'll talk about another time. And this is the Delphian reading course, and those are exclusively for mothers. I mean, kids could read them, but it's you know, and I know that the mother teacher is a thing in the Charlotte Mason realm, but this is just a deeper, better journey for mothers, for me, at least for me. Okay, so I'm gonna say, I had to make a list because I'll just talk for 10 hours. So what I didn't decide between the two. I'm still deciding. I haven't committed either way. I know in my heart that I'm going to do the Well-Educated Heart. I just know it works for me. My kids enjoy it. It's exciting enough. It changes things up enough, but it's also consistent. And like I said, I wrote on here the negatives, the cons, and they're not really actually cons. The only thing was my concern over the virtual classes, but that's like, at this point, it's a separate thing and you don't have to do that. And then my concern within those virtual things is the instructors have been selected, it appears, through the community of the LDS faith, which I don't care, but I would like to know that, you know, I just want to know. So that's I feel like that was my only true negative opinion about it so far. Some of the things from the Well-Educated Heart website. So I guess this is a video, me convincing you not to do Ambleside and actually do the Well-Educated Heart. I don't know. I didn't start out that way. I started out because I was so torn. I got all of the Ambleside books for next year for 3 of my kids, and I printed out all the things and I did it, and I'm just looking at it and I'm like, this is not This does not, I love history. Like I'm a history person, and it doesn't look fun. It doesn't look enjoyable. It looks like a checklist of things that we have to check off, which I love a checklist, but do my kids love a checklist? Are they going to appreciate it? I don't know. I don't know. I love some of the book selections. Some of them I feel like, I don't know if I don't know if I would read it. So I just, this is my own personal journey. So this has been going on forever, and the poor people who've had to hear me talk about this is why I'm making a video. I've had to talk about it to so many people. My friend Sarah, who's my homeschool bestie and cloth diapering bestie and crunchy bestie and Catholic Orthodox bestie, she has had to hear me talk about this for months. I'm sure she's sick of it. She's not even going to watch this video. Hi. But anyways, and then my husband, he's being such a good sport, but I know he's tired of hearing about it. So anyways, some of the quotes from the Well-Educated Heart website. On their website, they have a Catch the Vision course, which helps you catch the vision and get into the philosophy. It would be a la Charlotte Mason's volumes, but not quite as dry, okay? This is more fun because there's videos and there's podcasts and there's it's just more, I don't know. I personally feel like it's more interesting. So anyways, and these are some quotes I'm going to share that stuck out to me when I'm considering what type of curriculum, what kind of education do I want to give my children. This quote is from Marlene in the Catch the Vision, the section called Heart Before Mind. It says, "The freedom to explore and discover, to ask our own questions, to pursue a deeper study of that which has sparked an interest is a vital part of educating hearts. I have likened it to the experience that I had in the escape room." That was an earlier part of it. "What joy is there in simply carrying out someone else's instructions? Sure, everyone would escape if you were told just what to do. There would be no child left behind, but who cares? Like Abraham Lincoln suggested, require a man to produce a bale of hay, and he will produce one bale of hay. Show him the whole field, and tell him he can keep the profit of his own work, and he will produce 10 bales." For me, this addresses the concern that I have about a non-rigorous, non-classical education because, and I would argue that Karen Glass stands up for this same type of thing in her book, but I can give my kids like a list of things to do, or I can facilitate, I can be the facilitator and just offer the things that we're learning about. And then whatever you want from that, you take away and you keep that with you forever, hopefully. That's the goal. That's my goal. And then I'll talk about just in a second how I've added more of the classical aspects into our schedule. It's just sort of remedy my own need to have those things. And then here Marlene actually talks about the classical education in the 6th section called The Journey of a Lifetime. It says, "I have noticed a growing interest in classical education with its trivium of grammar, logic, and rhetoric. The sponge of a young child's mind is used for memorizing facts, and then students are taught to use these facts to logic and reason, and finally, the highest stage is rhetoric, where a student is taught to write persuasively so that he can convince others of the truth that he has arrived at by means of his own carefully trained logic and reason. I would be more sold on the process if mankind hadn't demonstrated such a proneness to error in his calculations. I find few minds more narrow or less open to change than the mind that has arrived at a perceived point of truth by a process of reason and logic alone. Much of the contention in our world arises from opposing viewpoints with both sides confident of their correctness. It seems our world would benefit by a little less persuading and a whole lot more seeking to understand the other's viewpoint, which is the function of the heart. There is another way to persuade others of truth, as demonstrated by one who has successfully influenced and led more people to truth than anyone else. It's Jesus. He has never written a single persuasive paper that we're aware of. His method of spreading truth was very simple. He let his light shine and commend to us that we do the same. Our life, he taught, is the open book for all to read. How a person feels in our presence will be remembered long after our words have been forgotten. The pathway for this kind of learning also has 3 parts: faith, hope, and charity. As I have said, our role as parents is to prepare our children's hearts to be inspired, give them good things to hope for, and teach them the right use of all things in love. Everything I have presented to you have these 3 things in mind. The rest we can safely leave in the hands of the heavenly parent, for true education, as noted before, is between a child's soul and God. Okay, so those are from the Well-Educated Heart. I believe Charlotte Mason also says that you're educating your child for salvation. And so this helps me feel more confident about my choice, and that just the modern definition of a classical education doesn't define the aspects of it. And she's right. You can logic your way into any argument. There are whole speech and debate groups for teens and adults where you argue your point, whether it's the sky's orange or whatever. You can Google anything and find that you're right. If you Google it, you could probably read any book and find that you're right, no matter what your opinion is. And so I just have to continue to believe that I'm making the right choice. I'm definitely making an educated and well-researched choice. And then, the last thing that I wrote on my paper was that you're continually reassessing. It doesn't mean that you have to commit, but if you're feeling at peace and relaxed and clear and confident about your plan and what you choose to do, that's what you need to do. You don't need to make it more difficult for yourself. And it needs to work for you and your family. And you don't make yourself fit into the box of the curriculum, because you could do that with anything. And then I'm going to make a second video, but I'm in a local Mothers of Influence group, and we actually had our meeting last night. And the topic, these books over here, the Mother's Learning Library topics, was language arts. I think the old one was called writing, but basically it's discussing what language arts means, what it means. And there's various different things. Anyway, so we had our meeting last night, and one of the things that we talked about was that just letting go of the expectations and pressure and allowing your children to thrive, and that you're just here to facilitate instilling a love of learning so that they can go and enrich their soul with the things that they're interested in. And so for all those reasons, that is why I keep coming back to the Well-Educated Heart, for all those reasons. And I've tried all the different curricula, and I feel like it's just what works best for us. But I know there are other people in the group who have asked about it. And I've made a schedule. I sent the schedule to some people for my high schooler, putting in the forgotten classics. That's what these are called. I don't know why I didn't say that the whole entire time. The selections that Marlene has chosen for the Well-Educated Heart are called, referred to as the forgotten classics, because they're classic literature. And I put a schedule together, and I added in the things that I wanted to add, like those classical education aspects, just like, anyone can do it. So if you're struggling like me and you can't embrace the non-scheduling part, and I live in a state where I have to log hours, and I have to write down what my child has done, and I have to keep a book of like their work for proof. And so it's very hard for me to just open something and learn about it. And I would love to do that, but I can't go back and write it down because I have so many kids, and I just will forget. I will forget. And so for that reason, I made a schedule for myself. I shared it with other people, But really, all I did was start at the beginning. I'll have to make another video about it. I don't know. It's so many videos. But basically, I just methodically planned it out, and not like meticulously. I just picked a series, like the American History series, which is called the Freedom series. And I started at the first book, and I picked the first 4 chapters or whatever, the first X amount of chapters to read for that month. And then I went down the list of things. And so I added in Latin. I did kind of take like the riches part of Ambleside, and I did that because you could switch, like you could learn about different artists every month with the Well-Educated Heart, but I think it's important for my family to learn more about a smaller number of artists. So I added that, and I customized it to our faith. So I added reading the Bible. I added our faith formation, the Catechism of the Catholic Church. I added saint biographies. The Well-Educated Heart, if you're Catholic or Orthodox, they have a bunch of saints. And like there's a lot. I feel like there's like 2 or 3 in each of the books. I don't know, probably not that many, but there's a lot. And so if you haven't explored the books, I would go on their website, and if you scroll to the very bottom, it says the Forgotten Classics, and it says author, by author, or by title. I would click on the by author, and I would search like your favorite authors. Like you could search for H.E. Marshall or James Baldwin, who are really popular with Ambleside and other literature-based curricula, and I would just see how many of those are in there, because it's a lot. I recently had to find The Stories of Don Quixote by James Baldwin. It's hard to find. I found it, and then after the fact, I noticed that it was in one of the books already, so I have now 2 of them, so which has happened to me an embarrassing amount of times. Okay, so anyways, to wrap it up, this started out as a video comparing the 2 curricula from my perspective, and it's turned into me convincing you to do something. So you should do what's best for you. But if you are wondering about it and how it stacks up, I would definitely look for yourself. But also, I think it's the same. I think it's the same thing. It's not the same thing, but it is the same type of thing, just in a different package. So definitely look on the website at all these Forgotten Classic resources. If you're new to Ambleside, you could look at all of their resources. A lot of that stuff is available for free. Most of it's in here, these books. So I would, if you're curious about checking out The Well-Educated Heart, I guess that's what this video is about. So thank you for watching my video.